The sound sliced through the African night like silk under a blade, thin, urgent, heartbreakingly small. A fragile cry that should have been met with a mother's deep, comforting rumble echoed instead into emptiness. Beneath the cold moonlight of the Eastern Cape, a tiny white form curled against the rust-colored soil. His fur was so pale it shone unnaturally bright, a glowing signal to every predator nearby. He was just 3 weeks old, scarcely 2 kilograms, his eyes still hazy with the blue veil of infancy. One day he would be called Leonardo, but on that night, he was only a genetic accident, a white lion cub abandoned by the very mother meant to protect him. Nature is ruthless in its logic. White fur offers no camouflage. No camouflage means failed hunts. Failed hunts mean a starving pride. And a pride cannot survive weakness, no matter how innocent, no matter how young. Even when that weakness carries their own blood. The cub cried again, weaker this time, dehydration draining the last of his strength. Later, Dr. Maverick Vanderwee would say that finding Leonardo alive bordered on the impossible. A veteran conservationist, he had been conducting a routine night patrol in the northern sector of Lionheart Wildlife Sanctuary when his spotlight caught an impossible flash of white in the darkness. At first, he thought it was trash, maybe a scrap of cloth or a young antelope separated from its herd. Then it moved. It cried. And something inside Maverick, hardened by 3 decades of conservation work and the countless deaths that come with it, split wide open. If you feel the weight of this moment, the quiet tragedy of nature colliding with compassion, then you understand why stories like this matter. Every subscription helps share more moments like these, stories that prove family isn't defined by biology, but by who stays when staying costs everything. Leonardo's journey is only beginning, and what comes next will challenge everything you believe about connection across species. Maverick was 61 years old, sun-worn and slightly stooped from a lifetime in the field. His hands scarred, capable shook as he lifted the cub. Leonardo weighed almost nothing. His breathing was shallow, his eyes sealed with discharge, his ribs stark beneath his white fur like bars around a failing heart. Maverick had seen this countless times. Cubs rejected for being weak, sick, or simply different. The rule was clear: you do not interfere. Conservation means letting the wild remain wild even when every human instinct begs you to intervene. But this was a white lion. Fewer than 13 existed in the wild across all of Africa. And beyond the statistics, beyond genetic rarity, this was a baby guilty of nothing except being born different. Maverick made his choice in the space between heartbeats. He would break the rules. He would try. The drive back to the sanctuary took 40 minutes over uneven dirt roads. Maverick held the cub inside his jacket, pressed against his chest, sharing body heat as Leonardo's temperature dropped toward a lethal threshold. He radioed ahead to his assistant, Maria. Prepare formula, heating pads, antibiotics, everything. Her voice crackled back with questions he couldn't answer. Just get it ready, he said. We're bringing home something impossible. The compound was modest and functional: solar panels, rain barrels, structures built to reduce human impact while maximizing care for injured wildlife. Maverick's quarters were slightly larger, not by status, but because he shared them with Lucas and Hazel, his dogs. Lucas, a 4-year-old Rottweiler, weighed 55 kilograms of disciplined muscle and intelligence. Bred for protection, trained for patrol, loyal beyond question. Hazel, 3 years old and slightly smaller, carried a gentler presence. Where Lucas enforced, Hazel soothed. Where he guarded, she comforted. They were Maverick's constant companions. When he entered his quarters that night, both dogs rose instantly. They recognized his urgency and the unfamiliar scent he carried. Something small, something alive, something feline. Maverick spoke softly. Easy. I need your help. Lucas stiffened, nostrils flaring. Cat. Baby. Sick. But more than that, lion. A low rumble formed in his chest. Not aggression, but uncertainty. Lions were apex predators. Lions did not belong indoors. Then Hazel stepped forward. Maverick opened his jacket. The tiny white face emerged, eyes barely open but searching. Hazel leaned in and licked the cub's face once, twice, cleaning his eyes with instinctive precision, like a mother who had done it 1,000 times before, though she had never had pups of her own. The cub made a small sound, something between a cry and a purr. A plea. Lucas watched as Hazel's tail began to move, just slightly. If Hazel accepted him, then perhaps he was safe. Lucas moved closer, sniffed, and relaxed. Without ceremony, without permission, Leonardo joined the pack. The first 72 hours were critical. Maverick turned his bedroom into a nursery, feeding Leonardo every 2 hours with specialized formula. Between feedings, the cub slept, but never alone. Lucas and Hazel positioned themselves on either side of the heating pad, their bodies forming a living wall of warmth. Maverick would wake during the night to find Lucas's massive head resting inches from Leonardo, their breathing slow and synchronized a steady rhythm of protection. A lion cub survived because 2 dogs decided he belonged, and the impossible had only just begun. Hazel often curled herself along the cub's opposite side, her body forming a gentle arc protective without smothering. Between the 2 dogs lay a fragile miracle, a sliver of white life growing stronger with each passing day. By the end of the first week, Leonardo had gained nearly half a kilogram. His eyes cleared, his voice sharpened, his cries turning louder and more demanding. Soon, he began testing his tiny world, wobbling forward on legs not yet ready to carry him. That was when the real lessons began. Lion cubs normally learn their place through a complex language of play and correction mock battles that teach restraint, discipline delivered without cruelty, constant guidance from mothers and pride members. Leonardo had none of that. Instead, he had Lucas and Hazel, and with a patience that bordered on the extraordinary, they became his teachers. The first lesson came when Leonardo, newly energized by health, clamped his tiny jaws around Hazel's ear not out of aggression, but playful instinct. Hazel allowed the first nip, then the second, but on the third, she turned sharply and barked directly into his face, firm, sudden, impossible to ignore. Leonardo froze. He released her ear and stared up at her with pale blue eyes just beginning their slow shift toward gold. Hazel held his gaze without blinking until Leonardo lowered his head, chin tucked, a clear sign of submission. Only then did she lean down and lick the top of his head. Correction delivered. Forgiveness granted. From the doorway, Lucas rumbled low in approval. As the weeks passed, the lessons multiplied. If Leonardo tried to eat before the dogs, Lucas would step in front of him, blocking the path until Leonardo sat and waited. If play grew too rough, Hazel would calmly pin him, holding him down until resistance faded into acceptance. When Leonardo cried for attention at the wrong time, both dogs ignored him completely, teaching him that noise without purpose earned only isolation. This was not cruelty. It was structure. It was love shaped like boundaries. And Leonardo, an orphan with no other guide, absorbed every rule with desperate focus. By 8 weeks, he weighed 7 kilograms and sat nearly as tall as Hazel. His coat was thick and brilliant white. His eyes glowed amber gold. His voice deepened, hinting at the thunder it would one day become. He explored more now, the room, the porch, the immediate grounds, always flanked by Lucas and Hazel, always supervised. Maverick documented everything. Photos, notes, observations. Nothing about this should have worked. A white lion rejected by his pride, adopted by dogs, raised within a canine hierarchy, learning dog behavior as fluently as if it were his native language. And yet it worked. By 3 months, Leonardo weighed 15 kilograms and stood nearly as tall as Hazel at the shoulder. His baby teeth began to fall away, replaced by weapons designed to crush bone. His paws widened, foretelling the strength they would one day carry. Everything about him announced what he was meant to be, a predator. And yet, when Lucas commanded, Leonardo obeyed. When Hazel corrected him, Leonardo yielded. When feeding time came, Leonardo waited until both dogs had finished before approaching his own bowl. The hierarchy was absolute. Lucas was alpha. Hazel followed. Leonardo, despite his size and growing power, was last. At night, when sleep would not come, Maverick worried. What would happen when Leonardo outweighed them? When strength replaced youth? When instinct demanded its due? Would the structure hold? The moment that sharpened those fears came on a blistering afternoon when Leonardo was just over 4 months old. He weighed 20 kilograms now. When he stood on his hind legs, his paws reached Maverick's chest. Pale gold fuzz framed his face, the earliest promise of a mane. He was shaking one of Hazel's rubber toys, growling with newfound intensity. Lucas approached, calm as ever. It was time for patrol. The routine was familiar. He reached for the toy. Leonardo pulled back. Lucas applied steady pressure. And then Leonardo did something new. He curled his lip and growled. It wasn't a kitten's hiss. It wasn't playful. It was a warning. Lucas froze. The air changed instantly. Then, without aggression or haste, Lucas stepped forward one step, then another, radiating absolute audacity. Leonardo backed away, dropped the toy, but Lucas continued until Leonardo hit the porch wall and could retreat no farther. Only then did Lucas stop. He stood inches from Leonardo, unmoving. Leonardo collapsed to the ground, belly down, ears flat, throat exposed. Submission written into every line of his body. Lucas held him there for long seconds, burning the lesson into memory. Then, he stepped back, picked up the toy, and placed it away. Hierarchy restored. Maverick lowered the tranquilizer gun he hadn't realized he'd been gripping. From the doorway, Hazel wagged her tail once. Approval. Leonardo remained down for another minute before rising slowly. He didn't approach Lucas. Instead, he walked to Hazel and pressed his head against her shoulder, seeking reassurance. She licked his ear. All was forgiven. But Maverick knew the truth. This was only the beginning. Leonardo was growing fast, and one question loomed over every quiet moment. When Leonardo reached full size, when he weighed hundreds of kilograms and could kill with a single blow, would memory and love still hold him back? Or would nature reclaim what it had patiently waited for? Time in the wild does not follow clocks. It moves in rains and droughts, births and deaths. For Leonardo, it meant transformation. By 8 months, he weighed 60 kilograms. His shoulders dwarfed Hazel's frame. His paws carved mythic impressions into the red earth. His mane thickened into a golden crown that caught the sun and turned it radiant. He was magnificent. He was dangerous. And he still lowered his head to 2 dogs who barely reached his chest. The mornings followed an unbreakable pattern. Maverick rose with the sun, just as the first light spilled across the horizon in washes of pink and amber. Breakfast was prepared the same way it always had been, unchanged since the night Leonardo had arrived, barely clinging to life. Lucas's bowl came first. Premium kibble mixed with meat scraps from the previous day. He approached it calmly, ate with deliberate patience, chewing as though time itself bent to his pace. Hazel's bowl followed, nearly identical, though slightly smaller. She waited without complaint, sitting tall, her eyes occasionally sliding toward Leonardo to ensure he remembered who went last. Leonardo always did. His meal had grown from formula to solid food to massive portions of raw meat as his body expanded. He could smell it. His hunger burned with the urgency of a growing predator. And yet he waited. Only when Lucas stepped back and gave the subtle head shake that marked completion did Hazel move forward. Only when Hazel finished was Leonardo permitted to eat. Sometimes Lucas delayed him intentionally, reinforcing the rule. Sometimes Hazel left scraps behind as temptation. Leonardo never touched them. The order was not a suggestion. It was law, unquestioned, immovable, as constant as the sunrise. Patrols came twice a day, morning and evening, sweeping different sections of the sanctuary's vast 2,000 hectares. It was more land than one man and 2 dogs could truly manage, but they tried. Lucas led every time, nose down, ears turning, body tuned to the language of the wild. Hazel walked beside him, offset just enough to guard the flanks. And Leonardo followed behind them both. Never beside. Never ahead. Behind. The place reserved for the lowest-ranking member of the pack. Maverick watched the formation daily, never failing to feel a quiet sense of disbelief. A lion. An apex predator moving in disciplined silence, responding to canine cues, obeying body language as though it were his birthright. Anyone witnessing it would have sworn they were seeing 3 oversized dogs. Meals remained the true test. In the wild, lions gorge when they can. Hunger is uncertainty. Food is guarded. The instinct to eat first is carved into their DNA. And yet Leonardo suppressed it day after day, month after month. On the rare occasions when instinct surged and he stepped forward too soon, correction was immediate but restrained. A single sharp bark from Lucas froze him mid-step. A steady, disappointed glance from Hazel sent him back to his place, head lowered in understanding. Playtime was different. Here, Leonardo was allowed to express himself, to pounce, wrestle, practice the movements etched into his bones by evolution. Lucas and Hazel understood that his body needed this, that strength without control would become dangerous in the wrong way. They engaged him in mock battles, letting him practice, letting him grow. But rules still applied. When Lucas decided play was finished, he turned away. If Leonardo tried to continue grabbing a tail or leaping again, Lucas would spin and bark once, and Leonardo would stop instantly. Hazel's play was softer. She let him chase her, let him believe he was winning, then slipped aside at the last moment, sending him tumbling past in delighted confusion. Through these moments, Hazel taught Leonardo the most critical lesson of all: restraint. She taught him how to be gentle despite his power, how to calculate force, how to remember that his body was now a weapon, and weapons required discipline. That lesson was tested when Leonardo was 10 months old and weighed nearly 80 kilograms. They were playing near Maverick's quarters, Hazel weaving and dodging while Leonardo practiced his pounce. His movements were faster now, more fluid. The clumsiness of youth was fading. On one leap, he misjudged. His paw broad as a dinner plate, claws extending nearly 8 centimeters, caught Hazel across the shoulder. Not hard, not intentional, but enough. Hazel yelped and went down. Everything stopped. Leonardo froze, horror draining the joy from his body. Hazel was hurt. Hazel, who had warmed him, cleaned him, taught him, was bleeding. 4 shallow gashes marked her shoulder. Lucas arrived instantly. He assessed the scene in seconds and made a choice. He did not attack. Instead, he walked directly to Leonardo and placed a heavy paw on his head, pressing down not violently, but with unmistakable alucacity. "Submit. Now." Leonardo collapsed immediately, rolling onto his side. Throat and belly exposed the deepest surrender he could offer. Only then did Lucas turn to Hazel, licking the wounds clean. They were painful, but not serious. Hazel looked past Lucas at Leonardo, still frozen in apology. She understood it had been an accident, but Lucas's correction had been essential. Strength without control could kill. Maverick watched from the porch, medical kit in hand, understanding the moment's gravity. This wasn't punishment, it was responsibility. Leonardo had to know that even accidental harm carried consequences. When Hazel finally approached Leonardo and touched her nose to him, forgiveness was given. Leonardo stayed down a while longer before rising carefully. For the rest of the day, he kept his distance 3 meters at least, showing respect through space. From that moment on, his control became extraordinary. He played with claws sheathed. He calculated force precisely. When he touched Hazel in affection, it was so gentle she barely felt it. The lesson had taken root, and it would never be forgotten. Leonardo had learned an essential truth early. His body was a weapon, and weapons required absolute discipline. Uncontrolled power didn't make one strong, it made one dangerous. By his first birthday, Leonardo weighed nearly 120 kilograms and stood almost shoulder-high to a grown man. His mane had filled out into a thick halo of gold, throwing his white face into striking relief. By every biological measure, he was a fully formed adolescent lion. And yet, the order remained unchanged. Lucas was still alpha. Hazel followed. Leonardo remained last. Feeding routines never shifted. Patrol formations stayed identical. Commands were obeyed as instantly at 12 months as they had been when Leonardo was barely bigger than a house cat. But adolescence brings curiosity in every species. Leonardo began testing the edges of his world, not with rebellion, but with questions, a step forward during meals, drifting closer to Lucas's side during patrols, initiating play after Lucas had clearly chosen rest. Each time, the response was measured. Hazel corrected gently when she could. Lucas stepped in firmly when he had to. The lesson was always the same. Hierarchy wasn't punishment, it was protection. It wasn't about submission, it was about belonging. One morning, before dawn fully arrived, the compound lay wrapped in blue twilight. Maverick hadn't yet stepped outside. The sanctuary breathed quietly, wind in the acacias, insects humming, a fish eagle calling somewhere far off. Lucas and Hazel waited on the porch as they always did. Leonardo lay nearby, appearing asleep. But he was watching. Lucas rose, stretched, and walked to the porch edge to survey the land. Hazel dozed. No humans nearby. No supervision. Leonardo could have taken that moment. Every instinct, every ancestral impulse should have pushed him to challenge, to claim dominance with size and strength alone. The opportunity was perfect. Leonardo stood, moved silently toward Lucas, came close enough to strike. Instead, he lowered his head and rubbed it gently against Lucas's shoulder, the unmistakable feline gesture of trust and affection. Lucas turned and licked Leonardo's ear. That was all. The hierarchy held not through fear or force, but because love, when taught early and reinforced patiently, can outweigh instinct. Visitors often asked Maverick if he was afraid of what Leonardo might become. Maverick always gave the same answer. Fear wasn't quite right. Respect, yes. Vigilance, absolutely. But Leonardo wasn't a ticking bomb. He was a pack member who understood order not because he was forced to accept it, but because chaos meant losing the only family he had ever known. Still, doubt lingered. Something this impossible wasn't supposed to work forever. At night, when the sanctuary slept, that thought returned. By 18 months, Leonardo weighed over 160 kilograms, dense muscle wrapped around barely contained power. His roar could carry for 8 kilometers. His jaws were capable of crushing bone with terrifying efficiency. Yet he roared rarely. Mostly, he used those teeth to eat the food Maverick provided or to groom Hazel when she allowed him close. The balance was astonishing. Maverick documented everything. Research papers, presentations, videos that left biologists stunned. Lions did not integrate into non-feline hierarchies. They did not suppress dominance indefinitely, and yet Leonardo did. The impossible, it seemed, was merely unlikely. Then came April. On a warm morning washed in golden light, Maverick noticed something subtle about Hazel. She ate more, rested longer, stayed closer to Lucas. Her abdomen was fuller, her nipples more pronounced. Recognition hit before denial could form. Hazel was pregnant. Maverick confirmed it with practiced hands 6 weeks along, perhaps 7. That meant puppies soon. Tiny, helpless puppies. In a compound shared with a 160-kilogram lion. For the first time since rescuing Leonardo, real fear settled in Maverick's gut. Puppies triggered instincts. Their sounds mimicked distress. To a predator's brain, baby animals were prey. He faced an impossible decision. Separate Leonardo now and risk destroying an 18-month bond, or trust that bond to override millions of years of evolution. In 3 weeks, maybe less, the answer would arrive. There would be no middle ground. That night, Maverick convened an emergency meeting. Maria, James, Dr. Sarah Okonkwo. Decades of combined experience sat in that small room, and no one had an easy answer. Options were written on the whiteboard. Option 1. Full separation. Remove Leonardo before the birth. Safest but potentially devastating to all 3 animals. Option 2. Partial separation. Visual contact without physical access. None of it felt right. The dice were already rolling, and whatever came next would either redefine what was possible or end in irreversible loss. Option 2 offered compromise. Limited contact with physical barriers. Benefit, some connection, reduced risk. Cost. Leonardo had never known confinement. Introducing cages now could fracture him psychologically. Option 3 was the most dangerous and the most hopeful. Change nothing. Trust the hierarchy. Benefit, it honored the bond they had built. Risk, if instinct won, newborn puppies would pay the price. Maria spoke first, her voice tight. We separate them. This isn't something we gamble with. James agreed. He could build a secure, temporary enclosure within 48 hours, humane, reinforced, safe. Dr. Sarah Okonkwo stayed silent longer than the others. When she finally spoke, her question cut through the room. Has anyone actually watched Leonardo with babies? Silence followed. Maverick searched his memory. There had been the orphaned impala fawn injured by a vehicle. Leonardo had sniffed it, rumbled softly, then lost interest. The vervet monkey infants transported briefly through the compound Leonardo had watched, never stalked. The jackal pup recovering from injury Leonardo had positioned himself between the pup and Lucas during feeding, protective rather than predatory. Dr. Okonkwo leaned forward. I'm not saying there's no danger. I'm saying Leonardo has spent 18 months being taught consistently that small, vulnerable lives here are family. Separating him now could feel like rejection. That kind of damage doesn't fade. Maria protested, but Maverick raised a hand. He had been thinking the same thing and fearing it. They voted. Maria, separation. James, separation. Dr. Okonkwo, trust the pack. The final decision rested with Maverick. He thought of the dying cub in the darkness, of the gold eyes filled with trust, of 2 dogs who had taught a lion how to belong. We keep them together, he said quietly. We monitor constantly. We prepare for intervention, but we trust what we've built. The days that followed vibrated with tension. Hazel's pregnancy progressed smoothly. Lucas grew vigilant, shadowing her constantly. And Leonardo changed. He became gentle to the point of reverence. When Hazel rested, he lay nearby. When she ate, he delayed his own meal even longer than usual. He followed her at a respectful distance, guarding without crowding. He stopped rough play entirely. Grooming replaced wrestling. Presence replaced motion. It was as if Leonardo understood without words that this time mattered. Maverick recorded everything. Notes, video, data. There was no precedent. Lions did not behave like this. And yet here was Leonardo. The birth came 3 weeks later, on a Thursday night. Hazel paced, refused food, sought shadow. Labor was imminent. Maverick stayed behind. Lucas glued himself to Hazel's side. Leonardo positioned himself 10 meters away, alert, unmoving. As darkness settled, Hazel entered the small storage building prepared for the birth. Lucas followed. Leonardo hesitated, then tried to step inside. Lucas appeared instantly in the doorway, growling low. "Not now." Leonardo stopped. For a heartbeat, Maverick feared this was the moment everything collapsed. Instead, Leonardo lowered himself flat to the ground outside the door, complete submission, and waited. Labor lasted 3 hours. 3 hours of held breath. 3 hours of vigilance. 3 hours Leonardo never moved. Then came the sounds that changed everything. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching. High-pitched cries. Full voice. Alive. Lucas emerged first, muzzle wet, eyes bright. He touched noses with Leonardo acknowledgement, perhaps gratitude. Hazel appeared next, exhausted, trembling, tail wagging faintly. She was inviting Leonardo in. Leonardo rose with almost sacred care. Step by measured step, he approached the doorway. Maverick's finger hovered on the trigger. Inside lay 4 tiny bodies, 2 males, 2 females, perfect, helpless. Leonardo stepped closer. Hazel did not object. Lucas circled, ready but calm. Leonardo stood over them, massive as a living wall, then lowered his head, sniffing each pup carefully. Then one of the puppies, later named Majesty, squeaked and wriggled free. Blind, fearless, drawn by warmth, he crawled onto Leonardo's paw. Maverick's heart stopped. Leonardo did not move. The puppy climbed paw to chest to mane until it vanished into the thick golden fur around Leonardo's neck. A newborn found safety in the mane of a predator, and Leonardo remained perfectly still. Love had won. For now, Hendrik only realized he was crying when a tear slipped past his jaw and fell to the ground. Hazel observed the scene with quiet composure, then returned her focus to the remaining 3 puppies, cleaning them with steady devotion. Lucas settled beside her, his broad body radiating warmth and reassurance. And Leonardo, slow, deliberate, reverent, lowered himself to the earth, curving his immense frame around the small family. He became a barrier of muscle and breath, a shield rather than a danger. Not once a threat, always a guardian, always family. The weeks that followed dismantled everything Hendrik believed he understood about animal behavior. The puppies Majesty, Shadow, Linda, and Zara thrived. Nourished by Hazel and supplemented carefully by Hendrik, they grew fast and strong. By 2 weeks, their eyes opened, revealing that soft blue-gray hue all puppies share before time paints in their adult colors. By 3 weeks, they were mobile, unsteady, clumsy, but fearless. From the moment they could move on their own, Leonardo became their playground. They climbed his back like a hill, slid down his sides, tugged his tail, gnawed gently at his ears, and disappeared into his mane for naps. Leonardo accepted it all with a patience that defied belief. When Shadow once bit his ear hard enough to draw blood, the lion didn't react. He merely glanced at Hazel, as if requesting assistance. Hazel corrected the puppy with a sharp bark, teaching the lesson Leonardo refused to enforce himself. One morning, Linda, 5 weeks old and bursting with curiosity, wandered beyond the safe zone, distracted by a fluttering butterfly. Leonardo noticed her absence first. Without sound or hesitation, he rose and followed her. Reaching her 20 meters away, he gently lifted her by the scruff, exactly as a lioness would her cub, and carried her back. His jaws, capable of crushing bone, held her with astonishing delicacy. Linda didn't cry. She dangled calmly, utterly trusting. When Leonardo returned her to safety, Lucas approached. For a brief moment, Hendrik feared correction. Instead, Lucas licked Leonardo's muzzle, a canine expression of respect and gratitude. Leonardo had acted as family. The clearest proof came when the puppies reached 8 weeks. Zara, stubborn and fearless, was chewing on expensive equipment she'd dragged from storage. Lucas barked once. Then again, firmer. She ignored him. Leonardo rose from the shade, walked over, and released a deep, resonant rumble. Not a roar, not a growl, but a sound heavy with alucacity. Zara froze, dropped the object, ran back to Hazel. Lucas met Leonardo's gaze. Nothing needed to be said. Lucas remained alpha, but Leonardo had shown he understood discipline, restraint, and responsibility. He wasn't just pack anymore. He was protector, uncle, guardian. By 3 months, the puppies weighed 12 kilograms each and were fully weaned. Boundless energy defined them, and Leonardo was at the center of their world. They slept piled against him, chased his tail, and followed him in clumsy imitation during patrols, marching in a crooked line behind his massive stride. Visitors watched in disbelief. A white lion surrounded by Rottweiler puppies. Footage spread online. Media called. Researchers asked questions. Hendrik allowed little access. This was not an exhibit. This was a family. The moment that captured everything came on an ordinary Tuesday morning. Hendrik stepped outside and stopped cold. 7 figures moved together across the compound. Lucas led. Hazel walked beside him. Leonardo followed still Omega despite his immense strength. And behind him, Majesty, Shadow, Linda, and Zara tried to mirror every step. A patrol. Hendrik grabbed his camera, heart pounding. This impossible family moved as one. Lucas, the smallest, commanded respect through calm leadership. Hazel had trusted beyond fear and been proven right. Leonardo held power enough to destroy all of it, yet chose humility, service, and protection. And 4 puppies learned pack, not through force, but through love. That evening, under a sky washed in orange and violet, Hendrik watched them settle. Lucas and Hazel on their beds. The puppies curled together. Leonardo wrapped around them, all a living fortress. Hendrik wrote his final journal entry that night. He wrote about hierarchy softened by affection, about instincts reshaped by care, about rules thought unbreakable until someone proves otherwise. He wrote about a lion cub meant to die alone and instead finding family. Because family is not defined by species, size, or strength. Family is who teaches you, who trusts you, who stands beside you, and who you choose to protect, even when protection costs everything. Family is a white lion obeying 2 dogs, not from fear, but from love. Family is 4 puppies sleeping on a predator without hesitation. Family is choice over biology, love over instinct. And sometimes when courage meets patience and trust outpaces fear, family is absolutely real.